1963 when it closed down and opened back up as the old jail museum. Look through my windshield and you can see the old jail, the bars in the upstairs windows. You notice there are no bars in the windows on the right half of the building? That's because that's the warden's house. The warden would live right here with his family attached to the jail. Okay, his family wasn't attached to the jail. His house was attached to the jail. That came out kind of wrong with his family attached to the jail. Whatever. Let's talk about building materials again. When the Spanish first arrived here, they didn't know about the coquina in the ground in the area, so they started building with what they could find here. Well, Florida is a jungle, so what did they find? They found lots of wood. Thank you very much. So they built everything into town in the beginning out of wood. Wooden houses, wooden fences, wooden walls, wooden bridges, wooden forts. Well, if you know Florida doesn't like wood. In fact, Florida eats wood. We've got termites, carpenter ants, carpenter beetles, carpenter bees. We've got humidity that can rot wood and fires that can burn wood. In Saint Augustine's first 107 years, we went through 9 wooden forts. Count them carefully, not well, count on your own hands. I gotta drive. So we went through 9 wooden forts in 107 years. After that 9th fort was burned down by a British attacker named Robert Searles, the Spanish said, we need a stronger fort. Well, yeah, they did. And luckily, that's when they found that coquina stuff in the ground. In 1672, they started building our first non-wooden fort out of coquina. And that fort was not hard to build. It only took, well, just like the forts I built for my sons, about 23 years. That's right, 1672 to 1695. But that fort still does stand today. It's a museum down in town called the Castillo de San Marcos, or St. Mark's Castle. It's run by the National Park Service. Then after they built that fort, they started building everything else in town out of coquina. And they built out of coquina all the way up till 1937. 1937, they completed our last coquina building. It was a civic center down in town where they were going to have dances, concerts, and public meetings. Lucky for you, they don't have dances there anymore, which means you don't have to watch me try out my dance moves. And then why did they stop building out of coquina? Well, it's simple. Some scientists were studying our coquina, realized it was a very rare type. It was only being found on Florida's east coast and the island of Puerto Rico. So they stopped building with coquina. On the count of 3, say hi, Lloyd. 1, 2, 3. Hi, Lloyd! So they stopped building with coquina because they realized it was rare. They closed down our quarries little by little. Our last quarry actually didn't close till 1972. So we had a coquina fort on the east side of town. That protected us to the east and the south because we had water on those sides. But it didn't protect us from land attacks. So you know what they did? They built 2 walls along Saint Augustine's borders on the north and the west. The northern wall was called the Rosario line. The western wall was called northern wall was the Cubo line. The western wall was the Rosario line. They were 18 feet high, made out of palm logs. And there were miniature Spanish forts all along those walls called redoubts. Those redoubts were manned 24 hours a day by Spanish soldiers with muskets and smaller cannons. But what if you wanted to get outside that wall and go hunting? You lived in town, you wanted to come out here, this was the jungle back then, and you wanted to come out here to hunt, you could. But you better be home before it got dark. Because at the north end of town, there was one gate. At the north end of the city, a gate. You know what they called it? The Northern City Gate. You know why? Because they were really good at naming things, and we still are in St. Augustine today. You don't believe we're good at naming things? Guess what the locals call these red trains? The red trains, very good. You know what we call the green and orange trolleys? The enemy. I mean, the competition. Anyway, I got you on that one, didn't I? All right, listen. So, we had a Northern City Gate. It had a drawbridge in it over a man-made moat. You wanted to leave town, you exited town through that Northern City Gate. You went hunting. Every night when it got dark, the Spanish soldiers locked up that drawbridge. They had strict orders never to open it after dark, which meant if you were out here hunting, you missed curfew, it got dark, you spent your night out here with the gators and snakes. Maybe even with some pirates who were getting ready to raid you a little down there. There were pirate attacks in this area. So yeah, there was a curfew, dark. the way, people often say, why wouldn't you just climb the city wall and get back into town? Well, there was a forest of Spanish bayonet trees planted around the outside of that city wall. Very sharp, hard leaves. And if you tried to climb the wall, you'd have to fight through those sharp bayonet plants first. The Spanish soldiers that guarded the town had strict orders. You shoot at anything you go over unless you go over a wall. So you spent your night out here at Old Bay Curfew. Another story of how good we are at naming things. This hotel right here is called the Castillo because it's on West Castillo Drive. See, we're real smart. The hotel that used to sit across the street in the early 1900s, they called it the San Marco Hotel because this is San Marco Avenue. We are geniuses, and you've got to move here if you're a genius because you can help us name things. And when I get a light and I run out of things to say, you know what I do? I point and I nod. Feel free to point and nod right along with me. I did that one day in the middle of town. My whole train was pointing and nodding at nothing, and people started looking, trying to figure out where we were pointing at. That was fun. So that Coquina Civic Center I told you about, the last Coquina building, finished in 1937, is still in use today, right here on our right. It is now our Visitors Information Center here in town. And the oldest Coquina building in town, look left, coming into view, the fort, the Castillo de San Marcos. You see that palm log wall coming off the fort? That's exactly where our colonial protective wall used to sit, but I told you it was about 18 feet high. Look at these pillars on the right. That's where the northern city gates are. But there's no gate there anymore today. That version of the pillars was built way back in 1808.
It's a couple hundred years ago.
All right, so Florida was Spanish. But then we became British in the middle of the 1700s for about 23 years. At the end of the American Revolution, the newly formed United States gave Florida back to Spain. We became Spanish again until 1821 when the United States purchased Florida from Spain. That's the year we became a U.S. territory. Learn all about that history right here at the Pirate and Treasure Museum, not just for the kids. Trust me, there's some real pirate artifacts on display. There's plus some really cool fake stuff from some of the famous pirate movies, like one of the swords that Johnny Depp used in the Pirates movie. Alright, it is December 18th. I grew up in New York. I'm sweating on December 18th. This is wrong. So let's talk about central air conditioning here in Saint Augustine. This city was designed in the 1500s with a central air conditioning system. Don't call me a liar. Feel that breeze coming off the Atlantic Ocean? It's almost always there. The Spanish took advantage of that breeze. They built this town with narrow streets, knowing that narrow streets meant the buildings would be close together, and they knew the buildings close together would grab that breeze and whip it around town, cooling things down a couple of degrees on a hot summer day. That was colonial central air conditioning. In fact, Spain built all of their cities throughout the Caribbean with narrow streets for that same purpose, to take advantage of sea breezes. Hello, kids! Good morning. Or wait, it's afternoon already. Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. Restaurants around town have live music on the weekends. That colonial central air conditioning I told you about, but they got real air conditioning inside. Hello, everybody. So I told you we got some great museums in town. On the north end of town, about 2.5 blocks the direction I'm pointing, we have the oldest wax museum in the United States. It's called Potter's Wax Museum up on the north end of town. Right in the middle of town, are you ready for what kind of museum we have? We have a medieval torture museum right here in Saint Augustine, next to a museum of miniatures, towering in fear from the medieval torture, I guess. On your right, we've got Spanish Park. Spanish Park in the middle has a statue of Queen Isabella of Spain riding a burro. Why Queen Isabella? She was dead before Saint Augustine existed. It's simple. Queen Isabella funded Columbus's journeys. Columbus had a sailor named Don Juan Ponce de Leon, or Ponce as I like to call him because of my bad Spanish accent. And Ponce was the guy that named this place Florida. So that's why we got Queen Isabella. This is North St. George Street. Great place to walk and shop and not have to worry about cars, because there ain't no cars on North St. George Street. Pedestrian traffic only. Take your brains to the 1880s again. In the 1880s, rich oil company man Henry Flagler showed up to build a hotel in Saint Augustine. He needed a place to build his hotel. He found a piece of land he thought would be perfect. There was only one problem. There was already a Methodist church sitting on the land Henry Flagler wanted. So Henry went to a meeting with the Methodists to make a deal. He said, listen. Now, by the way, nobody was there with an iPhone to record his conversation, so I get to make up how the conversation went any way I want. He said, listen, your whole church is old, it's falling apart. Give it to me, I'll tear it down and build my hotel. And they said, no, Mr. Flagler, our church is not for sale. And then Henry said, I didn't say sell me your church, I said give it to me. Why might he have done that? Here's why. Henry had already bought the Methodists a new piece of land about 2.5 blocks away, and he went into that meeting offering to build them a brand new church with his own money. So they took his offer. And while Henry Flagler was building his first hotel here in St. Augustine in the 1880s, he was also supervising construction of the brand new Grace United Methodist Church. We're going to see that church after we turn the corner, but first, you got to listen to this young lady singing over here. This is the best place in the city of St. Augustine. Thank you, ladies. Good morning! Afternoon! Yeah, she does some covers of some songs that are just amazing. Alright, so there is Grace United Methodist Church, built by Henry Flagler for the Methodists here in town. Beautiful terracotta ornamentation up there on that bell tower, the archways over the front door, hand-carved wooden front doors, over 600 pounds apiece, and guess what they don't have in that church? A bell. See that beautiful bell tower? Well, you can't now. I've locked it for you back all too close. They don't have a bell in the tower. You know why? Henry Flagler said, oh, you want a bell tower? I'll build you a bell tower. And then quickly made them sign a contract, an agreement, promising never to put a bell in that bell tower. Crazy old man. Anyway, listen. Even though they didn't have a bell, the building of that church by Henry Flagler made the Baptists in town jealous. The Baptists wanted Henry to build their new church too. The year was 1877. The Baptists planned a church that was going to cost $20,000. Henry said, here's the deal I'll make you. You raise $10,000 by yourself, and I'll give you the rest. They raised 10 grand. Henry gave them 11 grand more, bought them a piece of property, and helped them build the ancient City Baptist Church. And where is that located? Just follow the yellow brick church. Follow the yellow brick church. Follow the, right there, that beautiful yellow brick church building. Look at their bell tower. Doesn't that look more like something Rapunzel would hang her hair down
Yes.
from? That's because there's an apartment up there and not a bell. Henry also made them sign the agreement never to install a bell in their church. You know why? He wanted them to win the Nobel Prize. All right, I'm going to stop the train. Because you didn't win. We're going to try that over again. Henry wouldn't let them put in bells because he wanted them to win the Nobel Prize. No, don't overdo it, sir. It's not actually that funny. All right, listen. You want the truth why Henry wouldn't put bells in these churches? He was interviewed about that by a local paper a long time ago. Henry gave 2 reasons. He said, reason 1, I'm about to open a luxury resort hotel, and I don't want those bells waking up my hotel guests on a Sunday morning. And he said, but I can't prevent the bells